Hi, we're going to start chapter 25 today, the last chapter, but it's going to take 2 days. But first I wanted to show you something. What do you call this? A bag? A sack? Mom said that they used to call it a paper tote. Okay, on to our story. Chapter 25. And this is the picture. "We're dining in style tonight," Doug said as he sat down at the foot of the supper table and looked at Margaret, who was sitting on his right. Margaret was looking especially nice. She had changed to the new blue dress she had worn to the singing convention, and she had done her hair. Jim and Cal, sitting on the same side of the table, were also in new clothes. Aunt Mary, sitting at the head of the table with Cal on her left and Bert on her right, was wearing the same dress she had worn all day, but she had changed her apron. She had evidently made Bert take a bath and change his clothes because all the dirt was gone. Susan, sitting on Douglas's left next to Bert, was still wearing the old dress, but she was clean. Doug was glad that he had taken the trouble to change to a clean outfit also. As Doug glanced at those seated around the table, he thought that the day had been extremely rough on each. But they had all come through. He was proud of them, but he didn't say anything about that. What he did say caused them all to look up from the food they were serving their plates in surprise. "Margaret, we'll have to put some leaves in the table," Doug said without preamble. "The room ain't big enough for a table with leaves," Aunt Mary disagreed. "That's right," Douglas agreed. "This room isn't big enough for a dining room. It's just big enough for a bedroom for Susan." "It's not a bedroom," Susan objected. "There's no closet." "We can make a closet," Douglas said with a smile. "It's time we gave you a bedroom of your own. There won't be room enough for you up in the attic with the boys, so we will give you this room." "Boys?" Aunt Mary questioned. "Yes, when Margaret and I get married, Cal and Jim and Bert will have rooms upstairs." "Is this true, Ma?" Cal and Jim spoke at once. "Yes, it's true," Margaret agreed calmly. She had wanted to tell Cal and Jim that she was marrying Douglas so they would hear the news privately, but she hadn't quite believed it was true. Doug's statement at least proved that she had not been dreaming on the way back from the barn. "But when?" Cal asked. Margaret looked questioningly at Doug. "Next week," Douglas said promptly. "But the attic won't be finished by then," Bert exclaimed. "You boys can sleep on the porch until we get the attic finished." "But where do you plan to eat, Doug?" Margaret asked. She didn't care where they ate. They could eat in the kitchen at that big table for all she cared. "We can enclose part of the porch. A dining room isn't used enough to have the best place in the house. It's better that Susan have this nice room. Let's see. First we fix the steps to your porch so we can rent the place." "Rent our house?" Jim asked. "Yes, we plan to rent the place," Margaret said firmly. "We will save the money for you and Cal to go to college. After we fix the steps, then we fix the attic so you boys can sleep up there. Then we box in the porch for a dining room and move Susan to this room." "That's a lot of work," Aunt Mary said as she shook her head. "Yes, it is a lot of work to get done before school starts," Doug agreed. "I wonder, Cal, if you would be willing to run the store for me so I can get the carpenter work done." "If you think I can do it," Cal said weakly. For a few minutes, everyone ate in silence as they thought about the effect of the marriage on themselves. Margaret broke the silence. Aunt Mary, these new potatoes are especially good with this pork and the green beans. I don't have any pork left, so our beans taste a little flat when I cook them this way. We may not have any pork left either. The revenue officers were out there in the smokehouse poking around this evening. You know, Douglas spoke as he reached for the plate of butter. Someone must have given those agents a tip. They wouldn't have come barging in that way with a warrant unless they thought they would catch me. Turning to Aunt Mary, he asked, "Do you suppose it was Daisy Belle?" "Do you?" "If she did, you certainly deserve it," Aunt Mary returned without sympathy. She turned to Margaret to explain that Doug had sent 2 strange men over to the Campbell house to get whiskey. Those 2 men certainly would have told her who sent them when she said she didn't have anything to sell. "Oh, yes, she would have told them," Doug agreed, but shook his head. "No, even Daisy Belle wouldn't send federal agents." "No," Aunt Mary agreed acidly, "not if she thought you had anything they might find." Aunt Mary paused and then went on. "They didn't find anything, did they?" "Nothing except that black cat and her kittens. I was afraid they might plant something. You know, Floyd let them look by themselves." "I thought as much. I couldn't see Floyd searching where he knew he wouldn't find anything. I don't think Mr. Lewis would have planted evidence. Mr. Waters might have if he had a chance. However, Floyd made sure they didn't have a chance by bringing them in his car." And that's where we're going to stop for today. Wanted to show you my finished rose petal beads. They're not as smooth as my grandmother's, but I have another batch started, and I use some gum arabic with that to see what difference that makes. I did not even use the rusty nail that they suggest to make them black, so mine are a very, very deep red. I did use some rose oil to make them a little bit more waterproof, and I strung them on clear stretch cord. So if you're wanting to try, that's what I did.